Okay, let's unpack this. What happens when a simple Ouija board session, something maybe you've tried yourself, opens the door to something, well, truly unexpected?
Right, not just random letters.
Exactly. Could a mysterious voice named Seth really speak through the author, turning what seems like a game into this deep philosophical exploration?
And what about those other experiences, the dreams, the psychic visions?
Yeah, and those glimpses of what really feel like past lives, are they just, imagination running wild, or could they actually be windows into a deeper reality?
A much richer reality, perhaps.
And you have to ask yourself, what would you do if everything you thought you knew about time, about consciousness, existence itself, suddenly just started to shift, started to unravel?
A lot to consider.
It really is. Yeah. So today we're doing a deep dive into this absolutely fascinating collection of experiences. It's all chronicled in an introduction to Seth, Inner Cosmos and Psychic Explorations. And this material, it really captures a remarkable journey. I mean, it starts with just everyday curiosity, maybe a bit of skepticism.
As you'd expect.
Right. And then it just rapidly escalates into these really profound explorations of consciousness, identity, and, the very fabric of reality.
What's so compelling here, I think, is how these experiences, which are deeply personal, almost intimate, they really push the boundaries of what we commonly accept about, human perception, about where knowledge even comes from.
Good point.
The authors basically invite us to question our fundamental assumptions about what our minds are truly capable of. So our mission today, let's explore these accounts, try to distill the most striking insights.
And maybe think about the radical implications they hold for our own understanding of what it even means to exist.
Exactly.
Okay, so our journey kicks off in 1963. And not with, ancient scrolls or some complex ritual.
No, something much more familiar.
Yeah, almost whimsical, really. A Ouija board. So the author, Jane Roberts, she'd just come out of this intense creative period. She called it intentional construction, actually, after a year of writer's block.
Which is interesting in itself.
It is. And her husband, Rob, encourages her, hey, let's experiment with ESP. Let's look into consciousness expansion. And, you can guess the initial reaction.
Skepticism.
Big time.
Yeah.
She apparently said, "This thing won't work." I said, "We must be mad."
Huh, sounds about right.
But as she notes, maybe they weren't mad, or at least not yet, because despite all the doubts, that little pointer, it did move.
Wow.
She described it moving as if individual molecules had grown legs, spelling out actual coherent messages. And that's kind of where the curiosity shifts, right?
Absolutely. And it raises that crucial question. What is actually happening there? When that pointer moves, initially the messages, they came from this distinct personality, identified itself as Seth.
Seth.
But it didn't stay just on the board for long. The author describes this really startling internal shift, feeling her brain being crowded out by thoughts not its own.
Whoa.
Yeah, almost like some uninvited person took up residence in my skull. That's her words. So it's not just hearing a voice. It feels like conscious displacement.
Conscious displacement. That's a powerful way to put it. And things moved fast, didn't they?
Incredibly fast. After only 4 sessions with the board, Seth officially appeared, as she put it.
4 sessions. Okay.
Not by this. By the 8th session, the author herself, Jane, starts speaking for Seth, her own lips forming his words.
Wow, no more board needed.
Nope. She wrote this poem, actually, The Visitor, capturing how dramatic it felt, describing Seth kind of moving around in her body as if acclimating to arms and legs.
That sounds unsettling.
It was. She talks about the shock of being locked out of my own self like that. But here's the weird part. She also describes Seth as gentle and gay, like a bishop.
Gentle and gay like a bishop.
Yeah, like someone you could invite in for afternoon tea. So it's this bizarre mix, right? Feels like an invasion, but also strangely welcome.
Okay, that's complex.
And this conscious displacement idea is really key. Like you said, it's not just hearing voices. She's describing her own awareness being sort of shifted aside.
Okay.
Allowing Seth to use her physical body directly. It's like being a passenger watching things happen.
Yeah.
She said she could peep out through his eyes, and her own familiar living room looked very strange.
So a literal shift in perspective.
Exactly. And Seth, he'd apparently visit twice a week, coming from, get this, a world without wind or snow, but still with promises to keep.
Hinting at other realities.
Definitely suggesting dimensions intersecting with ours.
Okay, but wait, before Seth really took over, wasn't there someone else? Another thread?
Ah, yes, good point. Very early on, the Ouija board messages actually came from someone called Frank Wade.
Frank Wade.
And this Frank Wade insisted he knew their neighbor, a Miss Cunningham.
Okay, now that's specific.
Yeah.
And verifiable, maybe.
Well, that's what the author thought. Even amidst all this weirdness, she was pretty pragmatic. She actually checked with a colleague at a local art gallery. And yes, a Frank Wade did exist and did know Miss Cunningham. So there's this tangible link.
Wow, okay, so that must have prompted them to
Visit Miss Cunningham, exactly. And what the author observed when she visited was genuinely unsettling.
How so?
Miss Cunningham's hair was disheveled. She was nervously tugging her clothes. She'd stop in the middle of a sentence, begin to hum a tune, and forget what she'd been saying.
Oh dear, that sounds like a significant decline.
A huge change. And here's the kicker. It unexpectedly echoed a dream the author had had about Miss Cunningham way back in July.
No way. So connections forming between dreams, Ouija messages, real-world observations?
Exactly. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it, how these different psychic threads maybe were weaving together with everyday life.
Yeah, it's not happening in a vacuum.
Not at all. And it's striking how these messages weren't just abstract ideas. They touched existing relationships, observations. It adds this layer of, well, maybe not proof, but compelling synchronicity.
Makes it harder to just dismiss.
Definitely. And it's worth remembering the context, too. This was all starting just after President Kennedy's assassination. A really tumultuous time.
Right, a lot of uncertainty in the world.
The source material even notes, the familiar physical world did not seem a very safe place, and old ways of thinking have brought terrible fruit. There was this sense of chaos.
So maybe seeking answers elsewhere.
Perhaps. They felt that in their small, bright living room, amidst all that external chaos, they were actually making headway, gaining invaluable insight, and finding a sound point in a chaotic world. It really underscores that human need for meaning, for stability, especially when things feel unstable.
And they weren't just getting messages about neighbors, right? The Ouija board tackled bigger themes too.
Oh, yeah. Very early on, it delved into things like reincarnation.
Reincarnation, okay, that's a big one.
Huge. And Rob, the husband, he was apparently meticulous, recorded everything. The first 10 sessions included what they called fascinating data about his own family's past lives.
His family, wow. How did the author, Jane, feel about that?
Well, she admits, reincarnation was a very intriguing theory. She'd even published an article exploring the theme years earlier called The Red Wagon.
So she was open to it.
Intellectually intrigued, maybe. But she's quick to add, that did not mean I believed in it, thought it was true or fact. That skepticism is still there.
Oh, okay.
But then Rob suggests, maybe with a bit of insight, perhaps even then you knew it was true. And that tension, right, between the skeptical intellect and this intuitive knowing.
That seems to be a constant theme, doesn't it? Challenging them and us, are these just stories? Or something more?
Precisely. How do you navigate that kind of information that seems to come from somewhere else? Do you dismiss it? Do you believe it?
It's tough.
Especially when it starts getting really specific and coherent. It forces you to reevaluate how you even categorize experience.
Okay, so the conversations with Seth, they evolved past the board.
Dramatically. By the 12th session, this is January 2nd, 1964, the board's gone. Jane is speaking directly for Seth. And this session was a marathon, like 3 hours long.
3 hours.
Yeah, and she described feeling so crazy, just like that, to become someone else.
I can only imagine.
And it was during this session that Seth apparently offered what Jane considered a cornerstone teaching, a kind of preliminary framework for understanding what he called the inner cosmos.
The inner cosmos. Oh.
And he used this incredible analogy to try and explain what he called the fifth dimension.
The fifth dimension? How do you even describe that?
Well, that's the challenge, right? How do you talk about something that seems to defy our normal understanding of space, of structure?
Yeah.
Seth asked them to imagine this. Infinite maze of interlocking wires.
Like a giant structure.
Yeah, vast, boundless. Said your PERN, meaning our reality, is like a tiny position in between four very thin wires. Okay. While his plane is a small position in the neighboring lines on the other side.
Okay, different locations in the structure.
Kind of. But then he adds, these cubes also are within cubes, and those cubes are within cubes. So it's nested realities. And he says, I have now spoken only of the tiny space occupied by your plane and mine. So it's vast.
Wow.
But it's not just about different locations. It's more like different states of reality, different frequencies maybe. And here's the twist, he says. True transparency is not to see through, but to penetrate. This is what I mean by the fifth dimension.
To penetrate, not just see through. What does that even mean?
Right. It's provocative. And then he tells them, okay, now remove the structure of metal lines and cubes. Forget the analogy.
Because it's just a metaphor.
Exactly. Just for human understanding. He stresses, everything acts as if there were metal lines and cubes. But really, there are none. And he gives this vivid example. Your room's walls are so real that without them in winter, you would freeze to death. But they're neither room nor wall.
Whoa. Okay, hold on. So our solid reality isn't actually solid. It's like a construct.
That's the incredibly challenging idea, yeah. Our tangible world might be this functional construct we create, maybe a kind of consensus reality, just for practical purposes.
Yeah.
It totally flips the script on objective existence.
My brain hurts a little.
Mine too. Basically, Seth seems to be saying our physical world isn't the ultimate reality. It's more like a projection we all agree on.
Okay.
So the fifth dimension isn't another place you go to. It's more like the ability to perceive or interact with the underlying process behind that projection.
Not just the final picture on the screen.
Exactly. Seth suggested the wires of the universe aren't static. They're alive, trembling, even projections of the material themselves. It's hard to grasp, like trying to see or touch the hum of a million invisible bees.
That's a great image.
It fundamentally challenges our basic models of space, right? Suggesting reality isn't some fixed container we live in, but maybe a dynamic, conscious construct we're somehow generating.
From a Newtonian view to something more quantum-like, but for consciousness?
Something like that. It's a profound shift.
So after that 3-hour download, how did Jane react when she, came back to herself?
Well, when Rob read the dictation back to her, her reaction was striking. She said it made more sense than anything I had ever read.
More sense than anything.
Yeah, but then back in her normal conscious state, she couldn't access that source anymore. She said that source was gone.
Frustrating.
Totally. But Rob, pretty wisely, suggested maybe she only allowed that source freedom under certain definite conditions.
Like different states of consciousness have different access levels?
Precisely. This idea that consciousness isn't just one thing, but maybe a spectrum of awareness. Different states, different freedoms, different access points.
Which would naturally lead them to want to experiment more, right?
Exactly. Our everyday waking state might just be one narrow band of a much bigger, more mobile mental landscape.
Okay, so fueled by this curiosity about the mobility of consciousnness, they started trying different things.
Yeah, exploring ways to expand awareness. And one experiment was particularly captivating. It involved what seemed like a psychic vision of a past life. Or at least a super detailed historical narrative.
A past life vision. Okay, how did they set that up?
They did this one session in near darkness, just a small electric candle. They thought that might create the best conditions for accessing, deeper states.
Makes sense.
And Jane started seeing these really vivid, clear images, like an inner movie, she said, or a vivid dream while awake. And she described it all aloud, in her own voice, while Rob just took notes like crazy.
So what was she seeing?
Okay, get ready for the detail. She described Sarah Wellington in a shoemaker shop in England in 1748.
Wow, that's specific, 1748.
Right. Sarah was 17, thin, blonde, not considered beautiful, and tragically died at that age. Burned in the shop, apparently pushed into the street by the shoemaker.
Oh my God, that's awful.
It is. But the coherence and the sheer amount of detail that came pouring out spontaneously, that's what's stunning here.
Like what kind of detail?
Okay, so Sarah lived 3 shops down from the shoemaker. She had 2 brothers. One was a sailor. Her father traded handmade fishnets made from dried seaweed woven like rope, apparently for shoes for the younger brother.
Dried seaweed fishnets, that's specific.
Incredibly specific. And the village itself, named Ravenwick, on the northeast coast of England. Fewer than 300 residents.
Ravenwick, okay.
Described as having poor, rocky, very steep land, so no farming possible. They relied entirely on fishing, catching blackfish year-round.
Blackfish?
Yeah, it was humid, foggy, but the water stayed warm even in winter. The level of environmental detail is just...
Wow. And the people in the vision.
Oh yeah, the shoemaker. an old man who was also the church sexton and the bell ringer.
Multitasking.
Definitely. His wife, Anna, was 53, gray-haired, very fat and untidy, and wore these handmade magnifying light glasses.
Handmade glasses?
Right. And there was an 11-year-old apprentice, Albert Lamb, who slept in the kitchen.
Albert Lamb.
When the shoemaker died at 53, Albert apparently became a fisherman for 2 years, then went back to being a shoemaker's apprentice when a new one arrived. And eventually, he married a second Sarah, a cousin of the first Sarah Wellington.
A cousin.
Yeah, which, as Jane noted, points to the intermarriage common in these small, isolated villages. It just feels so grounded in reality somehow.
That level of social detail is amazing.
It really is. And placing in context, these details paint such a vivid and often pretty harsh picture of life back then.
Like how?
Well, people mostly drank ale. They thought water was unhealthy, though they did boil stream water for soup.
Ale over water. Interesting.
Their diet? Lamb ribs, something called Braunschweiger, barley bread, fish soup, mussels. But get this, no salt.
No salt, wow.
Can you imagine? And literacy was rare. They just saw no need for it. Liking books, it's not just the story. It feels like a whole micro-society, fully fleshed out.
Yeah, the cultural details are rich.
And the coherence of it all really challenges that idea of just making it up, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It feels like accessing some kind of organized data, whether it's a past life or something else.
She even saw things like travel.
Yep. A 2-day journey to London, maybe 20 miles a day, by coach or horseback. They'd stay overnight at an inn called Seaquick because robbers were a real danger.
Seaquick Inn, okay.
And the men carried pistols, described as black and long, much bigger than modern ones. And they kept the gunpowder and bullets separate because they thought the bullets themselves might explode.
That's a great historical nugget.
Isn't it? The level of specific, almost tactile detail just keeps coming. It goes beyond just what Sarah might see into broader context.
Did she see anything about the village's history before 1748?
She did. Saw it had existed for at least 350 years, saw evidence of invasions, Norwegians, and also dark-skinned short Gauls who looked like Frenchmen.
Wow, deep history.
And here's a grim twist of fate. She learned that Sarah Wellington, the first one, even if she hadn't died in the fire, she likely would have died of lung disease at 17 anyway.
Oh no, why?
Because of the village conditions.
Yeah.
Damp, sunless homes, windows always closed, houses built right on the rock. Plus, her wool clothes were apparently oily, which made them really prone to catching fire easily.
So a complete, if really tragic, life story emerged.
A complete narrative, yeah. The whole experience was so intense, so vivid, that when it suddenly stopped, Jane found herself asking Rob, basically, did I somehow go back in time, or did I just hallucinate that entire thing?
The million-dollar question.
Exactly. She described the feeling of it as like watching a movie from a crazy angle, sometimes feeling like she was changing positions in the air, even partially floating.
Floating. Okay. That speaks right to that central mystery, imagination or window.
Precisely. Is it a memory? Is it something else?
Now, here's where it gets even more layered, right? Because Jane wasn't the only one having visions that night.
Correct.
Yeah.
This is fascinating. Before Jane even started describing Sarah Wellington and 1748 England, Rob, her husband, had also had a vision.
At the same time.
Just before she started speaking, yeah. He couldn't interrupt her because she just launched right into the Sarah story.
So what did he see?
Something totally different. He saw a man's feet walking on a flat, dusty, reddish road. Barefoot, maybe primitive sandals, thin legs, long brown robe.
Okay.
And in the distance, he thought he saw pyramids, but with cold and brilliant colors, blue or green.
Pyramids with blue or green? Strange.
Yeah. And he noted the soles of the man's feet, brown, black, and wrinkled, covered in dust. His vision was much quicker, narrower than Jane's, but incredibly precise on those details.
So completely different content, different style of vision almost.
Exactly. They compared notes later. Jane's was sweeping cinematic perspective shifts from street level to flying above. Rob's was like this intense, focused snapshot.
Different modes of perception, maybe?
Could be. Suggests psychic input might manifest differently for different people.
And Jane, still reeling from her own experience, was wondering if Ravenwick was even real.
Yeah, she wrestled with it. To me, it was, she said. But immediately, her practical side kicked in. She wanted to verify the details. She recognized, look, if these experiences are going to continue, we must try to check these things.
That scientific curiosity again, even with something so strange.
Absolutely.
Right.
Which leads back to that fundamental question. What does it mean when this kind of detailed, specific, seemingly historical info pops up in an altered state.
Yeah, is it just the mind being incredibly creative, synthesizing forgotten bits of information?
Or is it genuinely tapping into something beyond our normal senses?
Yeah.
Accessing information differently. And Rob's response to all this questioning was just perfect, I think.
What did he say?
Simple, profound. He just said, what it is, it is. To find out, that's the fun of it.
Huh. I love that. The spirit of exploration.
Exactly. Keep an open mind, follow the data, see where it leads.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what does it all mean for us listening to this? We've gone from, a skeptical Ouija board session
Right, something almost mundane.
to direct communication with this entity, Seth. Then deep dives into visions that felt utterly real, like past lives, all the while being pushed to rethink reality, time, space.
And constantly bumping up against those core questions you raised at the start. Can a voice speak through someone? Are visions more than imagination?
Yeah, these accounts force us to confront the edges of our normal understanding, don't they?
They really do. This deep dive into the inner cosmos and psychic exploration stuff, it undeniably makes you consider the incredible, often completely untapped potential of the human mind.
The sheer detail, the meticulous recording.
And the profound philosophical ideas coming through Seth. It all invites us, maybe even dares us, to step beyond our conventional boxes, to question everything we thought we knew about how existence is structured and our place in it.
So whether you look at these accounts as, literal proof of other dimensions and past lives,
or maybe as just incredible demonstrations of the mind's power to create, to synthesize information from sources we don't understand yet.
either way, they're a potent reminder, aren't they? There's always more to learn, always more to question, so much more to explore about ourselves and the universe.
Absolutely. Which leads us, I think, to our final provocative thought for you, the listener, to maybe ponder on.
Okay, let's hear it.
What hidden capacities might your own consciousness hold? What might be waiting to be, unpacked or penetrated, as Seth put it? If you dare to look beyond the walls of your perceived reality, what happens if you allow for the unexpected?